Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Advancement Center, and welcome back to the reading of the next chapter of The Magic of Life by Robert Young. And we started chapter 35, or we continue with chapter 35. The day had been an adventurous one in Bill and Suzanne's household. They had all woken up early and launched into the day with the delight of having all slept in the same room. Jamie and Samuel ran wild around the kitchen, and Martha attempted to follow. Suzanne and Bill worked feverishly at making life interesting for the children. There had been many scares through the night, and the day was looking like it would be the same. All of the faithful songs and games that they had gone through in the early hours had brightened everybody up, at least to the stage where the day ahead, even with its gloominess, became exciting. Suzanne and Bill had pulled out all of the information that Willem had given them, and they had sat and gone through the maps over and over again. They discussed the meaning of the money and played games with Jamie, games that opened their vision to her special abilities. Samuel and Martha may still have the same abilities, but Jamie was at the age where she loved to demonstrate her abilities. When Bill got involved in the maps of the world, he found that Jamie remembered everything that Willem had shown them. She could point to every place that Willem had told them about, and so they spent the day playing great games and testing Jamie's abilities. They were also testing their own memories. But behind all of that, Bill still felt a little shaken by Simeon's statements. He felt that Simeon had overstepped the mark in telling him what to do. Suzanne picked up on this and said, "Bill, you've been steaming all day about what Simeon said, but you've forgotten about all of the good things he said. You've forgotten about the fact that he said you need to find out for yourself. If he had told you that you would probably sell your boat, you would have accepted that okay, and you would have heard the rest of what he said. Or if he had said, you will sell your boat, but because he said, sell your boat, you react. So how about forgetting about all of that for now and just get on with all of the exciting things he mentioned? You could start with arranging to see Simon to find out about how money works. You could find out all about what is on the island and find out how all of these predictions are going to come to pass." Bill said, "That's all right for you, but I know I've got to hold things relatively steady, and I know that without the support of the fishing, we've got nothing." "That's right," agreed Suzanne. "So carry on with that, but keep your eyes open for what Simeon said and don't react against it. He also said to watch Jamie and listen to her to see what she has to say. And there you go. That's just what we've been doing all day. We've got a lot out of it." Bill answered, "He also said to watch and listen to you, and I seem to be getting a lot out of that as well." Suzanne laughed. Bill's physical frame seemed to actually change in that moment. He released all of the pressure that he had placed on himself and loosened up. He felt good, and Suzanne also felt good. The three children laughed. It was as if they were all connected. Everyone had felt Bill's tension, and when he relaxed, they all relaxed, and he marveled at the connection. As the sun went down, he knew that the cyclone would be gone by midday the following day, and that everything would be back to normal. He knew they would all have to start again. Somehow Suzanne knew the same thing, but the children didn't care. They just simply played and enjoyed themselves along with Suzanne and Bill. When it came time to go to bed, Suzanne took little Martha and prepared her for bed. She turned and said to Bill, "Time to move the beds back." Jamie's response was unhealthy. She responded poorly to the suggestion. Bill almost agreed with her, but when Suzanne explained, "We need our room and you need your room. We can't all sleep together," Bill agreed with Suzanne. That's right, your mother's right. Come on, Jamie, let's move the beds, he said. Jamie shrugged her shoulders and looked sulky. Samuel ran past her to help Bill, and that made Jamie change, because Samuel was not going to be the one to help Bill. She was. She brightened up immediately and rushed to the room before Samuel could get there and started lifting the bedding. As Samuel caught up, he ran straight into a pillow and tumbled onto one of the beds. Jamie jumped on top of him and they laughed and giggled. Bill picked them up and put one under each arm before dumping both of them in the middle of the big bed. Come on, you two. Let's get all of this stuff out of here, he said. They jumped down off the bed and started gathering pillows and taking them to their room. The joy in their hearts and the joy in Suzanne's heart was totally beyond anything that they had ever imagined. It was like in an instant the whole world had changed around them, and they were all so happy. They thought they had known happiness before, but in this moment, everything had changed so quickly. Their laughter filled the house. Bill knew that he too had changed in those few moments before. It had affected everyone. Suzanne sensed the big change, but was totally accepting and joyful about the Bill who stood before her. He obviously had no worries and felt totally at home in her house. The darkness came quickly as the children were settled into bed. Bill decided it was time to gather some firewood. Much of what he had chopped before the cyclone had already been used. There was some wood stacked up behind the shed, and now that the winds had seemed to drop, he was ready to go out and do some of his manly chores. Before the light had completely gone, Bill stepped away and put on his wet weather gear and his big shoes, then quickly snuck out the door. The wind rattled through the house as soon as the door was open, and the slam of the door afterwards was much louder than he had expected. He was outside amongst the elements, and he shivered a little when the cold winds first hit him. He had not expected it to be so severe. He knew that the cyclone was almost over, but it was still stirring up a fury when he walked out. To get to the shed, he had to go around the house because he had walked out of the front door. As he walked around the side, he was shocked to see the amount of the rubble piled up against the house. The cyclone had picked up their whole chicken shed and slammed it into the side of the house. There was no sign of the chickens, and Bill wondered where they had all gone. The mess was enormous, and the shed was almost completely ruined. As Bill scrounged around for the timber he had stacked around the side, he noticed that there was a major crack that had developed in the side wall of the house. The water was still starting to seep into the building. He knew that it would be okay for another few days, but the amount of work that it would take to repair it was more than he would have liked at this stage. Bill decided to have another search around the rear of the house to collect any wood that had been laying around or blown off anything. He walked around the yard and searched behind the trees and found a few more pieces of timber. Suddenly, in amongst the trees at the rear of the yard, where the path led off into the mountains, he found a small bird lying on the ground, shivering. He slowly approached the bird and allowed it to feel his presence before he gently reached down and picked it up. It was still alive, but was badly shaken and was very wet. Bill placed the bird under his coat, picked up and carried as much wood as he could in one hand and cradled the bird with the other before walking back around the house to place the wood on the veranda. He then walked up to the door and knocked. Suzanne came out and quickly opened the door. Slightly puzzled, she asked, "Why did you knock?" Bill handed her the bird and said, "Here, look after this. I'll get some more wood." Suzanne took the bird inside and wrapped it in a small cloth and started to warm the bird with her hands. It was a beautiful looking bird with lots of colors, and it seemed to be a rare type for this area. It loved to be cradled in Suzanne's hands, and it seemed like it started to get better as soon as she touched it. Bill managed to gather enough wood to last them for the next 24 hours. He stacked it on the front veranda and brought in as much as he could store inside at the time. As he went in and out of the door, the wind blew and the rain came in the front door. It did a really good job of wetting the entire floor, and each time the door opened and closed, the birds shivered. Suzanne and the bird were pleased when Bill had finished his job, closed the door, and settled down in front of the fire. Bill and Suzanne had no idea of the significance of this little bird, but they felt there was something special about it. They felt that there was something that led Bill to the spot where he had found the bird. They discussed it and figured that there must have been a good reason for the bird to be here. They took turns at cradling the bird and helping it recover. By the time they were ready to go to bed, the bird was completely comfortable in their presence, and it snuggled into the toweling cloth that Suzanne had prepared for it. Bill was happy to go to sleep that night. Many things had changed within him, and he was feeling a difference in his body, something he had never felt before. It made him tired, and as soon as his head hit the pillow, he fell sound asleep. Suzanne lay there and watched Bill for a while. She knew something special was happening to the pair of them. After they had talked to Simeon, so many things felt like they had changed. Yet they had not been aware that they were stuck in the house and there was a cyclone raging outside. She thought about the damage to the house that Bill had told her about and was quite concerned, but Bill assured her that he could remove the mud bricks and rebuild them. He had been shown how by his father, but it still gave Suzanne some concern. She was always concerned about anything that may affect the children, and although it was unfounded, she was still worried. As she watched Bill sleeping beside her, a sudden thought came that not only Bill had experienced a change in this cyclone, but many other people had experienced a change also. She lay with that thought and wondered who the other people were and what the effect of that change would be on the island. Many other thoughts floated in and out of her mind, but the main thought was the thought of the future and the prediction that had told her she would leave the island and then return again. She was not sure of the exact timing, although she had been told. It did not sink in. She considered that was not important, but she knew that having Bill beside her made all the difference in her life. She wanted to make sure that it always remained that way, and she decided to seriously talk to Bill about marriage the following day. She knew that he wanted to be married as much as she did, and they had been told that it would not happen straight away, and that was unsatisfactory as far as she was concerned. She decided to talk to Bill about it. As soon as she had made up her mind, she relaxed and fell into a deep sleep beside her loved one. The morning came quickly, and Bill swiftly jumped out of bed as Jamie landed beside him, ready to give Suzanne a big hug. Bill got straight up, not knowing where he was before realizing that he was in the house with the family he loved so much. He sat back down on the bed and gave Jamie a pat on the head and leaned over and gave Suzanne a kiss. As he did, Jamie wrapped her arms around him and said, "Good morning, Bill." "Good morning, Jamie. How are you this morning?" he answered. "Good, thanks. My fairy is here again, and he's almost ready to play. He said we can play this afternoon," she said. "Does that mean the rain will stop this afternoon?" asked Bill. "The cyclone will be gone this afternoon," said Jamie. Suddenly, Bill remembered the small bird. He reached over to Suzanne and said, "Oh, I forgot the bird." "Don't worry, the bird's fine," said Suzanne reassuringly. "But we left it on the table," said Bill. "I got up early this morning when I heard the bird fluttering around, and I opened the door to let it out, but it wouldn't go. So it's back, sitting where we originally put it. It doesn't seem to want to go anywhere," replied Suzanne. "Can I see the birdie?" asked Jamie. "Yes," said Bill. "Come on, we'll go and have a look." As they walked out into the kitchen, the bird popped its head up from inside the toweling wrap and chirped as it looked around. Jamie moved over to get closer to the bird and put her face up very near to it. The bird felt very comfortable with Jamie and did not move. Can I touch the bird, Bill? Asked Jamie. Be very gentle, said Bill, just with one or two fingers. Jamie gently put two fingers on top of the bird and stroked it down its back. The bird again did not move. It was as if it knew to be totally still, and Jamie stroked it again before pulling her hand away quickly in the excitement. She turned to Bill with a big grin on her face and shook slightly with delight. Can we call it Mandy? She asked. Yeah, fine, that sounds good to me, but who's Mandy? Asked Bill. Mandy's the bird, said Jamie. Yes, I know that, but do you know any other Mandys? Asked Bill. Yes, Mandy's my friend. Mandy visits me sometimes, said Jamie. Oh, I see. Is Mandy a little girlfriend? Is she? Asked Bill, a little surprised. Yes, and she's just like the bird. She's my friend, said Jamie. Bill smiled and felt totally at ease with everything that was happening. He loved the interaction with Jamie. For some reason, they both got along so well. Jamie raced off to tell her mother all about Mandy. In amongst the exciting chatter, Bill could feel there was something he had missed with Suzanne, so he wandered back into the bedroom and sat down beside Suzanne. Is everything all right, love? Asked Bill. Suzanne looked up and answered, Oh, yes, everything's just beautiful. I'm missing you so much. But I'm here, said Bill. But I'm still missing you so much, answered Suzanne. In that instant, he understood. He understood that they had compromised their relationship by not making arrangements to be married. They were so connected, they almost knew each other's thoughts. So are you talking about being married? Asked Bill. Suzanne nodded. Jamie asked Bill, Are you and Mummy getting married? Yes, we are, answered Bill. Suzanne smiled and asked, Do you mean that? Yes, we'll make arrangements. I'm not sure how it will work, but we'll make arrangements, said Bill. Suzanne leapt up and wrapped her arms around Bill and said, I love you so much, Bill. You've got no idea what you have just done for me. And you've got no idea what you've just done for me, answered Bill lovingly. The excitement of the moment took everything out of Bill's mind and allowed him to feel the love that was deep within him and the love that was coming to him from Suzanne. Bill stood quickly and said, Okay, if the cyclone is going to be finished this afternoon, I've got a lot of work to do. I've got to get out there and get some bricks made. But what about the rain? Asked Suzanne. Best time for it. If I get these bricks made and get them ready, then when it dries out, we can put the chicken shed back together. Well, what's left of it, and hopefully we'll have some of the chickens come back. So I'll get out there and start forming the bricks, and by the time they've dried in the sun, we'll have everything ready. That should work in well with what I've got to do about the boat. I need to do some fishing over the next couple of days. We'll see what happens from there, said Bill. So you are thinking that you may do something about the boat? Asked Suzanne. I'm not saying a word, said Bill. At this point, I'm not selling anything, but I do have some sort of feeling that I don't need to fish for very much longer. And besides, it's only a matter of time before something goes wrong out there, and I don't want that to happen with you and the family here, particularly now that we're going to get married. Suzanne smiled. She knew that Bill was starting to take notice of what Simeon had said. She knew also that a seed had been planted, and Bill was starting to see more than he had seen the night before. As they ate their breakfast, Bill and Suzanne chatted a lot about their plans for a wedding. In the back of both of their minds, they wondered how that all fitted in with the prediction of leaving the island. They both knew that any prediction was not to be driven by them. They would see what would happen if they continued in the direction that they wanted to go. They did not need to make anything happen to make a prediction come true, though it still made them wonder, particularly with the plans they were making. It did not seem like it was possible for them to leave the island, not just now, but ever. Yet they both had a yearning to see all of the places that Willem had shown them, a yearning to see the world and to see all the people in the world. As Bill got up from the table to prepare himself to go and make bricks, a thought came to his mind that he had forgotten to include a visit to Simon Guthridge. I've forgotten about Simon Guthridge. If I finish the bricks on time, maybe we can get over there after the rain stops, suggested Bill. I'd like that. I think it would be good for us to make sure Simon is okay. His house is a bit old, and I don't know that he is able to do much work around the yard at all, said Suzanne. Well, you never know with a man like him. It seems that he has resources that we've never thought of. They come out of nowhere. One minute he's dying, and the next minute he's waltzing around like a 2-year-old. So you can't tell, said Bill. Suzanne agreed, and Bill gave her a kiss on the cheek and a hug and said, I'll see you soon, before heading out the door. Time went quickly for Bill. His activities in the yard always made the time disappear. It was a little bit like when he was fishing. Life was always so peaceful when he was busy, and he found that he could think about anything, yet it did not affect his work. The rain started to ease off just before it was time to go in for lunch. The covers that Bill had put over his mud bricks started to look like they might dry off. The water was draining off more quickly than the rain was coming down. It just looked like the occasional spot on top of his covers. Bill was very proud of what he had done, and the timing was perfect. The drying time for bricks had to be fairly long in the first stages, so that little bit of rain would be quite an advantage. Even if the sun were to come out straight away, the bricks would form up nice and solid. Bill thought about many things while he worked. He thought about his meeting with Simon Guthridge, one that Simon was unaware of at this stage. Bill became more excited each time he thought about it. He thought about his time in Norwich and how he had become great friends with Mary, Henry, and Willem in that one-day trip. He wondered how all of this fitted together. At lunch, he said to Suzanne, I've got a little more to do, but I think we might head off after lunch. I'm sure the rain will be finished by the time we get to Simon's place. Suzanne said, That's fine. It won't hurt the children to get a bit wet, and it's not so cold now. The wind has dropped, and I think we need to get out of the house. I'm almost certain that if we put the bird out in the laundry, it will be ready to go by the time we come back. They agreed, just like they agreed about everything. So once lunch was over and the children were ready, they soon found themselves on the road, all rugged up and prepared for the walk ahead. There was an excitement in the air and quite an excitement amongst the children. They were so pleased to get out of the house and pleased to be on their way to see Old Simon, as they called him. They always enjoyed visiting Simon's place and the long hallway that they were able to run down all the time. Bill's mind was elsewhere. A cloud that had an unusual shape had been distracting him, and he was sure that he saw movement that made it look quite unusual. He had the feeling of a presence, and he had known about these things happening around the times of rain and overcast days. It was like there was a lot of activity from another realm. Today was clear, very clear, and he knew there was somebody or something there in the cloud. It took his complete attention. When Suzanne spoke to him, he did not even hear her. She looked at his eyes and could see that he was focused somewhere else. She just watched him as he seemed to get more and more in touch with the unusual cloud. When they nearly walked off the edge of the path, Suzanne grabbed him and pulled him back. She looked in his eyes and asked, "What is it, love?" "I'm not sure. It's just like I'm being attracted to that cloud. There's something there and I don't understand, but it really feels good." Jamie looked up and said quite innocently, "Oh, that's my friends." Samuel looked up and said, "They're my friends." Suzanne looked at the two children and asked, "What do you mean they're your friends?" "The little boy talks to me," answered Samuel. "And the man talks to me," said Jamie. Bill then understood he was hearing a conversation of some sort, but he didn't know what it was. It was sort of in the background, and he had not focused on it, but once the children spoke, he could hear. It was like a family conversation, but it didn't include him or the children, but they were just talking. He stopped and stood still and asked, "Can you hear that?" Suzanne answered, "No." Jamie said, "Yes, they always talk like that. They talk funny." "Do you know what they're saying?" asked Bill. "No," said Jamie. "When they talk to us, they stop and change so we can understand them." "No, they always talk funny to me," said Samuel. "Do you know what they're saying, Samuel?" asked Bill. "Yes," said Samuel. "Can you tell us?" asked Bill. "No," replied Samuel. "But you know what they're saying?" asked Bill. "Yes," said Samuel. Samuel was a child of few words. Yes and no were very definite. If he said no, then he never changed that. You could never convince Samuel to change his mind about anything. He was so sure of himself, and he was so clear, and he never got upset about anything. When Bill asked if he understood, and he answered yes, then you knew that he understood. Bill quickly snapped out of it and knew that it was another game that he had stepped into, another game that the children play. Jamie sensed this straight away, and she stopped and held onto Bill's leg and said, "Bill, they are real. It's okay. They're real, and they're my friends." Bill relaxed again and knew that Jamie had read his mind. He said, "It's okay, Jamie. I'll accept that." He really meant what he said. He changed his whole outlook and decided that he would be more attentive in the future. And that's chapter 35. And I'll stop there and wish you a perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. And when I come back, we'll be reading chapter 36 and beyond. Thank you.